What's up, dudes and dudettes of the internet? My name's Seth, and today we're going to be taking a first look at Stories, The Path of Destinies. If you like story-driven action games and stuff like that, like seriously, this game is going to be right up your alley. It's absolutely amazing what they ended up doing with this one, with multiple path choices, as well as the whole end game itself, which is actually very exciting because you end up unlocking different pathways as you end up progressing further in the story. Mostly the reason that I'm talking about most of these things before we jump right in is there is actually some heavy narration going on with the game, and we're just going to start a new file, and this video may end up being a little bit longer just so we can kind of encapsulate and talk about most of the features in the game. Overwriting an existing file, yeah, that's okay, I don't care.
The infamous rover Reynardo plundered the floating isles. Then his mother called him to her deathbed. "Swear to me that you won't die on the gallows," she rasped. Reluctantly, he swore. And he whiled away his days at home with music, cards, and wine. But the Emperor had changed. He'd been good once, a shy, almost humble toad. He'd built universities. But then people started whispering about mass graves in the woods, midnight rituals, victims screaming. The Imperial Ravens would round up entire villages, and no one ever returned. The Ravens had come to Ubar scouting for ancient books said to be of great power. But the librarians had hidden the books, so they'd burnt the librarians. The citizens, outraged, had driven them off. The Ravens had come back with dropships. The kid had fled with one of those books. He was brave and dumb and wanted to join the rebellion. And Reynardo had promised his mother he'd protect him.
I like how they just call him the kid. Like, really. Yeah, I'm noticing a little bit of issues just with my own personal sound here, so I'm gonna do my best to try and remember to boost the game's audio whenever this dude is talking, but I might end up missing a little bit of it, everybody. Of course.
Reynardo had to run after him.
Yes, of course we did. I love the graphic style too. It's very, very cool, and we're a Fox character. Now that we actually get into the game, I can kind of show you a little bit of the actionness of it. We got very tight controls on our character. Spin to win, okay. And it's got some fantastic combat when you get into the game, very much like the Arkham games, because it's very, very quick, and you only end up ever getting hurt by enemies based on your own reaction time. Like, you can usually just counter enemies very, very easily, and eventually later you end up getting dash abilities and stuff like that. It's very, very cool. And as we come to some of the more important sections,
were staring at the kid like
I'll let y'all know about it.
Which probably was what was in their tiny brains. "Hey," Reynardo said. They cocked their heads at him. "Pick on someone as ugly as you." Wait, that didn't come out right.
Yeah, that didn't.
The ravens cawed and rushed at him.
All right, bring it on, weird crow creatures. So if we actually... Oh, they're not teaching us the counter move yet. So these guys are really, real easy. Oh my goodness, here we go. So it's trying to tell us to look towards an enemy before we end up hitting the attack button, and it will actually counter an enemy and interrupt any other action that you're doing, so you don't have to worry about missing the timing. Like, if we're fighting an enemy right here, we can actually just counter them right away, and that is the best type of combat system for me personally in any type of video game. I love that Batman combat system, like seriously, because it rewards the player for quick reaction time, and it's just amazing that they actually have that in this little game that's just so story-driven and focused and stuff like that, and it kind of has a little bit of a Castlevania.
Overhead.
Oh.
He hoped they hadn't noticed him. The kid.
A little bit of a Metroidvania, I guess I should say, style of play, where you end up coming to other areas later once you end up unlocking different weapons and different abilities, as well as a little bit of a crafting system too. It's very, very neat the way that they actually do it. And of course, this is one of my favorite moves in the game. You can actually grab an enemy, throw him into another one, or just throw him off the edge. And it actually does a very good job too, because later you'll actually be introduced to some shield enemies, which we'll probably not get to face today, and you can throw an enemy into a shield enemy, and that will actually cause him to drop his shield, and then you actually are able to attack him. Again, very, very much inspired by the Arkham games, even with different enemy types being introduced the further you progress into the game.
The Gate of Heroes. Someone's idea of a joke, making the Skyship Docks a gated community. You needed a hero's sword to open it. And the kid was on the other side of the gate.
How?
Who let you through? Promise me you'll take the book to the rebels. Or I'm gonna steal your ship. I'm not taking that book anywhere. And neither are you. Try and stop me, laughed the kid. I bet you don't even have a hero's sword. And with that, the kid hopped away. Had to hand it to the kid. He was an idiot, but he had guts. Where was Renardo going to get a hero sword?
Leave the kid alone, Renardo, our narrator guy. But don't worry, conveniently we're gonna just make a hero sword right over here, and this is where that crafting system comes in that I was talking about.
And wind essence? That sounds about right. I'll need a workshop though.
Don't worry, we've got a workshop conveniently right here. So the way that this works is we go into the sword section, and there is actually sword crafting. This is the sword crafting menu. Here you can craft and upgrade powerful magic swords. Gather the required materials from the chests scattered throughout Boreas. I guess that's the world, right? Then it shows the selected sword's current level and special power at the top, the selected sword's special power at its next level, and the resources needed in order to upgrade the sword in the first place. So right now we only have enough enough ore, I should say, to get ourselves this first sword, and they're kind of forcing us to. QED? What? But yeah, so as you progress further into the game, you end up gathering more and more ore, and we can get ourselves a fire sword, an ice sword, and last but not least is the void blade. And each of these swords actually has different elemental properties which have their strengths and weaknesses. Like this one, you can set enemies on fire. This one, you can freeze enemies. This one, increase movement speed and attack speed at the cost of energy, which is actually insane. But the amount of ore that it takes, as you can see, is a gradual step up, and then leveling up the swords. Like, it could end up being very, very difficult to get your hands on every single type of sword in the game, especially trying to upgrade them all. And we'll talk about the gem system as we progress a little bit further. So now, this is what all of these swords have.
This is what he got for settling down and finding people to care about. The kid's mum had been a swell cook, and she'd laughed at Renardo's jokes, even when he didn't know he'd made one. And the ravens had come to burn her. And she'd made him promise to protect the kid. But she never told him where the book was. Just the kid.
So those doors back there, there's actually different elemental types, and you end up using the different elemental swords as keys into those doors. And as you end up getting further into the game, well, I guess we'll save that for last, because it's actually very cool.
It was too far to jump. There'd been a bridge here before, hadn't there? And there was Peter, giggling at him. How'd you get across? He asked the kid. Where'd you find a hook? I hopped, said the kid. Wise kid. Hey, look out behind you! Cute, said Renardo. Oh, ravens.
Cute ravens. Yes. Come over here, I'm gonna throw him into his friend. Yes, and then we get an instant finishing kill on them too. So easy peasy.
Sense into the kid. Just hook his way across the ledge and chase the kid down. Thing was, he hadn't used his hook since he'd retired. How had he done it? Maybe if he meditated at that altar there, he'd remember his old skills.
So that little up arrow that ended up showing up on our character was telling us that we leveled up, which you end up earning from killing a set amount of enemies and stuff like that. Once you end up going into the altar itself, each time you gain a level, you can also gain a skill point. Spend your skill points at the altar scattered throughout Boreas to gain new powerful abilities to upgrade existing ones. And it actually ends up doing a very good job too, because you can see right here as well. There are 4 tiers of skills. The more truths you discover, the more tiers you unlock. Now, this is the most important thing, which I kind of wanted to save for the end, but we'll talk about it now just because I was a little bit confused when I first started playing this game. How do you actually get to the next tiers of skills? The truths that they're talking about. By the way, here's a skill option where it shows your requirement. You can show you have a skill to spend, so get the hookshot ability, which is going to be right here. The different truths are as you end up progressing through the game, and you'll see in a moment when we get to the next level, we will actually be able to choose a fork in the road, which will end up leading to a different conclusion to the story. And then once you end up getting to the final part of the story, time actually resets, sends you back to the beginning so that you can make new choices. And not only do you end up unlocking more and more abilities, more weapons, and stuff like that that you can actually take with you from the beginning of the game all over again, it introduces new enemy types and new pathways so that you can experience all sorts of different cross sections in the road and everything. It's just, it's so crazy.
Something you never completely forgot, like how to freeze time when attacking. The more he fought, the more he'd probably remember.
Yeah, just like how to freeze time while attacking. We can pull enemies at the cost of energy, or we can grapple ourselves over to these things now. Which, I mean, it's an automatic skill anyway, but still, I just love the fact that this game actually has such tight controls, which of course it's highly recommended that you play this game with a controller over a keyboard.
Was the Farfarer. She was the fastest ship he'd ever known. She could do the Kester run in 12 furlongs. Oh, so the salesman had told him. And something told him the kid was about to walk into an ambush. "Stop!" he shouted. "I'm not giving you the book!" shouted the kid, and took off.
No, kid!
No! Peter! But the kid ran for it, and a goggler nailed him with its eye.
No! We must get revenge on that thing! This is actually another very important aspect of the game that I absolutely love that breaks up the just run and gun combat is it has stealth sections like this. Now, as soon as you see that enemy lit up, it means if we just press the attack button, we automatically teleport towards him and kill him. And it's very, very exciting later on because some of the levels are actually like, it'll throw so many of those gogglers at you and you can actually chain combo them all while staying out of their light and not taking any damage, which is just so cool.
The book was unburned. Next to it were the buckles from the kid's shoes. A kid-sized pile of ashes. Why hadn't he lied and told the kid he'd take the book to the rebels? The kid would be alive now. Really pissed off and betrayed, but alive. Oh. Renato picked up the book. He couldn't let the Empire have it now. He was going to have to get it out of there. He'd be a wanted man. Probably have to join the rebellion just to have a place to dock. Well, he'd hated home life anyway.
Yeah. Who needs home life when you got a beautiful ship like this?
About this book anyway. Maybe he should open it and find out.
Now that is actually
years ago.
Oh.
How many? The war was a blur. And now 3 Raven scout ships were chasing him. "Where are you running, rebel?" cawed the Raven captain over the loud hailer. Renato could see them cranking up their catapults. "Just going out for milk?" Renato yelled back. "Where can you run?" laughed the Raven horribly. Far behind him, another city was burning. The dark cloud above its island was thousands of Imperial ships. The fleet was doing a thorough job. "Take us to the rebel base! I will spare your life!" it cawed. The entire jury-rigged rebel fleet was only a few islands to the east. Beyond that were only the pillars of heaven, a sea of endless blood-colored tornadoes. The rebellion was out of time, unless Renato could bring a game-changer. Maybe he could. Renato had found out where he could find the pieces of the Sky Ripper, the legendary weapon that had exiled the lost gods. Surely a legendary weapon could win the final battle. On the other hand, his old friend Lapino had sent Renato a desperate message saying he had a brilliant scheme to save the rebellion. If Renato could only rescue him. Renato dived the Farfarer towards the abyss. As he felt the heat of the jet stream, the Raven ships peeled off, not stable enough to follow him down there. Now it was time to choose. Lapino or the Sky Ripper?
So the book itself is actually what is giving our character these powers, because I think what's supposed to be going on right now is we are reading through the book, being able to tell the future, and then things end up getting reset, kind of Groundhog's Day, while you're trying to find the most optimal way of getting through it. I think the way that the game works itself is you're actually trying to fight through the story 3 or 4 times before you end up getting to the final ending. And the game does also do a very good job where if we end up going down the Sky Ripper path, which is the one that I took the first time, the game actually does, the narrator does nothing but hound you the entire time, just telling you, it's like, Ronaldo is turning evil, but he doesn't care. And just, it makes it very, very obvious that this is the bad choice, and it tries to make you feel bad for actually choosing like the evil decision. But one thing that I think is so cool about this game is that each of these different pathways actually has a different and unique playstyle, where if you actually get to the end of the Sky Ripper storyline, you end up actually unlocking the Sky Ripper, and for a couple missions, it's just one-shotting all the enemies. Then there's another pathway that has you going after a Dark Evil Crystal. This one ends up having you save Lapino and find party members and stuff like that. It's very, very cool, and I love the design of it. But that's gonna be it for today, everybody, because I just wanted to give you more of a sneak peek. I thought we would end up having a little bit more time to go further in depth into the story and stuff, but it doesn't seem like we're going to, because we ended up taking almost 17 minutes already here according to my timer. So thank you all so much for watching. I very much appreciate it. Links will be in the description for pretty much everything, and if you enjoyed this video, I would very much appreciate for you to Hadouken the like button for me, share, favorite, and subscribe to join Team Pixel. Sign on, stay epic, everybody.